All right, welcome back to part B. If you just started on this part and you didn't watch part A, shame on you. Go back and watch part A. You need to understand the context of everything we're going to talk about. Go ahead. Go do it. I'm I'm serious. Go do it. Okay. I'm going to assume honor system that you watched part A. So welcome back, Philip. Thanks for joining us tonight. We were just talking about chocolate actually during the break. So, what's your favorite? You said you like chocolate ice cream. So, what is your favorite chocolate ice cream?
Yes.
Favorite kind of chocolate ice cream? I know there's many kinds.
Rocky Road.
That's a good choice. I like Moose Tracks. It's kind of similar.
Moose Tracks. Oh. I
That's
think
the
I
one
had
that
Moose
has
Tracks.
the peanut butter cups in it and the
Yeah.
ribbons of chocolate in it.
Nice.
Yeah. Although when I was a kid, I bought a half gallon for myself with my own money, and it just was in the fridge and it was mine, and I ate it myself for like a whole week, and I just got so sick of Moose
Nice.
Tracks. It's like, damn it. I really like Moose Tracks. Now I don't like it anymore, so I didn't eat Moose Tracks for like a couple of years after that. I overdid
Oh
it.
gosh.
Too much of a good thing, right? Um,
They all have that sweet tooth. It's a weakness.
yeah, definitely. Okay, so I'm gonna tell you. So I'm gonna tell you sort of my theories about your personality type, according to the scrupulous Myers-Briggs, um, and we can talk about it for whatever good this system is, right? Some people find some truth in it.
Oh, it's very insightful.
It's somewhere to start, right? Something to think
Yeah.
about. Um, it can't be too reductionist, but it is helpful to have some kind of markers to think about. Um, so I'll tell you a few observations that I've noticed about you during part A, and then after that, if you want to tell me perhaps if you knew what type you were going in. Did you have any guesses before going in? You don't have to tell me right now, but did you have?
Yeah.
You did. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'll just tell
A couple
you.
of types.
Are you familiar with this cognitive function stuff? Do you know what that is?
Yes, very much.
Very much so. Okay, good. So then I'll just assume that the viewers also have heard me ramble on about it enough that they probably have some idea what I'm gonna say or what I'm thinking about. Um, so the observations that I have of you, first of all, with how kind of this isn't just from one thing you said, but just from a number of different things you said, and your kind of emphasis on how sort of in the moment you are, and uh, how much the sensory things satisfy you, or how you have to be doing them a lot, makes me think of extroverted sensing, which is abbreviated SE. Also, the way that you talk to me sounds like somebody who uses a lot of introverted intuition, which is like more synthesized and to the point than extroverted intuition, which tends to be more rambly and like uh, goes off on lots of tangents and just kind of tries to find its way. Um, so early on in the conversation, I thought that you were probably preferring to use introverted intuition and extroverted sensing. And then at a certain point in the conversation, we started talking about your um, how well you know yourself, how well you know your feelings and things, and it it became apparent to me that you seem to have a strong sense of introverted feeling, and a number of things that you've said to me sound like the kinds of things that somebody who well, you've said a number of things to me that made me think that you tend to go inward a lot first before you do anything else. Um, how you react to people, how you relate to people, how much you want to be around people, um, how much you prefer to be in your own little world, so to speak. These are all things that people who like to go inward first tend to do. And those are what those introverted functions are kind of referring to, as like consulting yourself before doing anything else, really. So everything that you said made me think. Well, you have a high preference for extroverted sensing. You seem to be to lack a lot of the hallmarks of the judging types. Of you're pretty yeah, I don't know. You're kind of a mixture, actually. You're like a mixture of like particular about some things, but pretty go with the flow about most things. I think the things you're particular about are like the things you want to do, or the things that relate to what you want. But otherwise, pretty go with the flow. So to me, that all implies perceiving type, introverted feeling, extroverted sensing. You can probably get a guess for what I think your type probably is. I'm assuming, right?
ISFP.
Yes. And so what type or types did you come into it thinking you might be?
Honestly, I had thought that at some point I was like a ISTP or INFP.
I actually had my little question mark over ISTP before ISFP, just so you know. Wait, what was the other one? ISTP or what?
INFP.
Oh, INFP.
Now, I'll tell you a funny thing about INFP is because how do I put this? I've been known to have like a long-term memory from my past where I can remember like certain people, certain things,
Mm-hmm.
and if someone's like relating to me in a certain way, I get like a flashback of kind of like what my experience was,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like someone putting in like a tape or something and pressing a button, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm just like going through in my mind. So I thought if like at some point I was more INFP because of that.
Mm-hmm. Because
With
introverted sensing.
yeah, and you know how everyone I hear that people like refer to SI in a way as like the past or taking something from the past and using it in the present moment.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't really tend to like I wouldn't know how to do that, but I know like from like I said my memories and all that
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
tend to be
Well,
really strong.
um, again, this is all based on theories, right? But uh, the INFPs that I've met, anyways, that I think were INFPs, anyways, um, used a lot of extroverted intuition. So they were not necessarily rambly, so to speak, but like they talked a lot, and it was always very interesting and cleverly improvisational. I guess that's the way I would put it. Um, and to me, you seem to be more to the point, which I would expect more from an ISTP or an ISFP. So just throwing that out there as an observation that I've had of extroverted intuition is it's a lot more. I mean, think Michael Scott, from The Office. It's just it's expressively improvisational, very
This is
outwardly and ongoing.
this is NE, right? You're
Yeah,
saying?
yeah. Any extrovert intuition.
Huh. Yeah, because I see it like going all over the place in a sense where
It,
it's
it
just like one thing after another after another after another, and then it just kind of like goes, doesn't like stop. It just
right,
keeps
right.
going and going.
Yeah, 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 yeah. That's on. I mean, but I think the perceiving types in general can be seen as being that way, but in different ways probably. I think that the way I would describe it is like ISTPs and ISFPs probably well, they're using a lot of extroverted sensing, so I mean, it's sort of like, I guess the way I could describe it is like, when you're using extroverted sensing a lot like that, it's like moment to moment, whereas extroverted intuition is like fluid or lightning or something that's like just continuous.
Like chain lightning kind of thing,
Well, I don't know, but I'd have to look up a video of chain lightning, but I mean,
or like a lightning rod, say.
like, what I mean is extroverted sensing is kind of always about the eternal now, and extroverted intuition is kind of like building what's next or something like that, or it's like it's always focused on the eternal next, and extroverted sensing is always focused on the eternal now. Maybe that's a good way of putting it. I feel better now that I've said that. That makes sense to me if I say that out loud. So extroverted sensors, I've noticed, including myself, by the way, as an INFJ, tend to can tend to get lost in the moment, um, with no bearing to reality. Or, I mean, it's just sort of like in the moment of whatever the sensory experience of the moment is. If it's music, if it's um, something physical, or if it's something you're lost in your thoughts or something like that. This is a hard distinction, though, and this is where you're going to have to probably do a lot of reading to try to find what you think is the most common pattern for yourself. The thing about the introverted sensing part, um, well, what you said about having difficulty sort of acting when it was time does sound like something that that INFPs and INTPs struggle with. But I think that there's a different reason that I think they have difficulty committing to a direction and being able to say definitively, this is what I should be doing. But when I said, is it like the train? You see the train and you see it leaving. That's kind of how I end up seeing it sometimes with the inferior extroverted sensing, where I feel like I know what the thing was, and I see it leaving, and I can't do anything about it. And I think people who prefer introverted intuition often can see the thing and have that vision to be able to see it. But if they don't act on it, then they just watch it go away. They just watch it pass, basically.
Could SI be like another way of dealing with things rather than using NI? So if you have like SI in your front stack, it's like your alternative NI sort of way.
Yeah, if you don't well, if you're an INFP, you don't prefer to use a lot of introverted intuition. So, I mean,
Yeah.
the INFPs and INTPs that I know just have a hard time. It's hard nailing them down. It's like nailing Jello to the wall.
Really?
It's hard getting them to commit to something. I mean, unless it's like they'll go with the flow, you know what I mean? Like if you're like, we're doing this, and then they go, okay. But I mean, the I recently worked with an INTP, and it was difficult working with her to a degree because I wanted us to agree on the scope of what we were going to do, and I couldn't get her to agree to. She wants to always leave outs for herself. And I think that's what low introverted intuition preference leads to, is wanting to always have like lots of options at any given point. Whereas people who prefer introverted intuition often want to hone it in. Let's get to the point.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It's like having possibilities and options open. Uh, whereas, yeah, that makes sense.
And I think even ISTPs and ISFPs, I've noticed, like they are improvisers for sure, but they also are using they are using introverted intuition, and they're getting better at it as they get older, as you mentioned that you are. Uh, and I think that means they're going to more and more want to narrow in their options as as they get more mature in their type than they might have been more freeform in their earlier days, and then want to be a little more conclusive. I don't know what your experience has been like that with as you've gotten older.
Yeah, sometimes I sit like I can just daze off and I can think about a possibility of this happening, this other thing happening,
Hmm.
sort of going around in my head, and someone will ask me like, what are you thinking about? And I'll just be like trying to connect certain things, but it's like, I can't do it. I could see the picture of me fitting into this, you know, possibility or whatever, and then I just have no way of tracking to it.
Hmm. But you're probably not avoiding it. You're probably trying to get to it, right?
Right.
So that makes me think you're not an INFP, because an INFP is almost kind of avoiding that. And I think an ISTP or an ISFP is trying to get to it, but struggles because they don't prefer introverted intuition nearly as much as somebody who has it, who prefers it in the first or second spot.
So then I'll use my feelings and try to feel like this is a good possibility for
Hmm.
me, for the other person to do this thing. But yeah,
I mean, the good news is you'll get better at it as you get older. So if you just keep working on it, it is a. I mean, if you do prefer introverted intuition, then you'll have to tell me upon meditation whether you thought my uh, theory is worthwhile. But if you are an ISFP, then in theory you're going to become more attuned with your intuition over time, and it won't feel so difficult because you'll have a lot more of experience in life, and that will inform your intuition. You know.
getting like a sense of certain things,
Hmm.
gut feeling.
Yeah, exactly. Your gut feelings will get more informed because you'll have experienced more life. So for an ISFP, the best thing is to keep experiencing life. Keep like try to get outside and do more and more things, get more experiences, because the more you do that, the more information you'll be feeding your intuition, and your intuition will get better.
That makes sense.
As far as ISTP though, I mean, earlier in the discussion, um, I started to think a little bit about extroverted feeling, um, but because ISTPs don't like drama either. um, in fact, I would say ISFPs, I think they probably like drama a little bit more than ISTPs do. So the whole not liking drama thing makes me would kind of make me lean more ISTP than ISFP. Um, but I think how quickly you said that you were able to kind of identify your own preferences, your own feelings, and things like that is really something that introverted feelers have so much better of a handle on than extroverted feelers. Extroverted feelers really struggle with that, with understanding their own feelings. They really have to reach for it to get there.
Interesting. Because I always thought that they always react and like when they're in the environment, they react towards something that's usually pretty heavy, because I think that they feel strongly, and then
Hmm.
they just kind of burst it out, kind of like a
Yeah, yeah.
TV way.
No, they do, but they don't understand it. That's the thing. What I'm saying is, I think extroverted feelers understand other people's feelings much better. And then when their own lid is bursting or something is happening with their own feelings, it's confusing. Like, why am I feeling this way? I was very outwardly emotional as a child, and I didn't understand my own emotions at all. And it took me like most of my life to come to some kind of understanding of my own feelings. But I always could feel the feelings of other people. I could always tell when somebody was upset. I could always tell how they felt about me, and that was what upset me. It's because I would know how they felt. Um, but it took me, like I said, till my 30s really to fully logic my way through my feelings and be able to figure those out, what those meant. So that's the life. I've talked to other extroverted feelers, and that is a pretty common thing for extroverted feelers to struggle with knowing, understanding their own feelings.
I've walked into several like different group settings in like a
Hmm.
room, and I've always been like I already know after a little while like what everyone's feeling, the whole kind of like thing, and sometimes it's too much for me to handle, and I have to like completely either like take myself away from it,
Hmm.
and I have to just like kind of sit there and just kind of like numb myself out because sometimes it's like too overbearing, especially like when I'm outside. That's another thing that I've noticed too with myself. I When I was younger, I was just like not. It's just more reactive towards them.
Hmm. Reactive towards your feelings or towards other people's feelings?
Towards their feelings.
Towards your own feelings. Yeah, I mean, this is where things get complicated because both introverted feelers and extroverted feelers do obviously feel other people's feelings. I think most humans, I mean, there's a percentage of humans that are totally like shut off from other people's feelings. Like,
Really.
yeah. Um, but I don't think that has to do with personality type. I think those are just like personality disorders. Um, the so I have noticed that introverted feeling higher introverted feeling users. So this is like ISFP, INFP, ESFP, ENFP have a very strong ability to feel other people's feelings too. And I guess the way I would describe it is uh, extroverted feelers are outward with their feelings in a very two-way street kind of way. It's like our feelings, not your feelings and my feelings. And introverted feelers have this much better handle on the distinction between those other people's feelings and their own feelings. So it's not to say that an introverted feeler wouldn't feel the other person's feelings, because they're human. You would feel those other people's feelings, right? I mean, not to say that the people who don't aren't human. They are, but most humans can feel other people's feelings. Um, just like most humans will yawn when another human yawns. It's like those mirror neurons, right?
Contagious.
Yeah. But I guess the theory behind introverted feeling and extroverted feeling, anyways, is that the introverted feeling, the people who prefer introverted feeling, have much stronger distinction between their own feelings and other people's feelings, even if they do feel the other person's feelings. Whereas extroverted feelers struggle with, there's much less of a line between my feelings and other people's feelings. So you'll have to tell me if either one of those sounds. I mean, if extroverted feeling sounds more like, if that sounds more familiar, then it's possible you might be an ISTP, you know? So to me, it would come down to ISTP or ISFP, in my opinion, where I would lean ISFP, but you would have to probably tell me, actually, because you're the only one inside your own head, and I've only known you for an hour. You'd have to tell me. You may not be able to even be conclusive on this call. You know what I'm saying? Like, it might be just something you have to think about, or tell me in a comment afterwards, or send me an email or something. But I don't know. I'm curious to get your thoughts. If there's any, I don't know, if you're leaning one direction or the other, or if not, then we can talk about it after the fact.
I see it in others, like when they do an FE kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, how's it going, everybody? That kind of thing. They're all expressive and lit up, and I sit there and I'm like laughing, like inside I'm going, oh god. And then they're like, Philip, come over here or do this thing, and I'm going, oh, please don't make me have to do this. No. It's like I have to push myself to the point of something that they're so easy and used to doing.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, it's just like it's not natural.
I mean, either of those reactions could sound like an ISTP or an ISFP, in my opinion, for different reasons. So that doesn't help me, unfortunately, be more conclusive, I guess. Because I mean, myself too. Even I also don't. When somebody's like, "Hey," unless it's like a really close friend, like somebody I haven't seen in a long time or whatever, then. But otherwise, I don't know. I guess I take it back. When I'm in a public scenario and I'm in a crowd, I guess I'm pretty charismatic. So I guess I'm selling myself short here. Just between us, I've done public speaking and stuff like that, but I don't know. I guess I mean extra, but I know introverted feelers who do that too. So you know what I mean? Like that's where it's tricky. Like I know some ENFPs that are very like, hey, come on over here and get it, and getting all excited and getting people together and stuff like that. You know what I mean? So it's not just an extroverted feeling thing. I think it probably is a feeling type thing, though. You know what I mean? Like the feeling types. I think people are feeling types will will be more emotional. How can I say it? They're more emotional people generally.
Yeah, that's what I get told too. Like, Phil, you're too emotional when you talk, or you like something, and I'm going. I gotta be honest with myself. I can't hide it.
Right. Yeah, I think that's another clue for me for ISFP, because I think ISTPs might be accused of not being nearly emotional enough, or seeming too disconnected.
Because it's that inferior function or the last function.
Yeah. ISTPs are pretty evasive of human interaction, and I mean, that's why some of the things you've said have made me think possibly ISTP, but I think ISTPs can do social interaction pretty well when the situation arrives. Just depends on the ISTP. But I have met some very socially competent ISTPs. Just depends on how developed of a person they are. Well, so we're kind of down to the end of the call. So let me ask you this: do you have any question for me? I know I've been asking you questions all night. So it's your chance to say whatever you want to say or ask me anything.
How do you like? I don't know if it's like something. Um, yeah, it's like how do you pin down when you have possibilities and they're just like all over the place? How do you? I don't know how to pin them down.
Do you
I
mean
feel
like?
very good. I feel like very good and strongly, and then in the long term, I can see it. And it's like, but there's all these like kinds of little things that leading up to it that aren't going to work out
Mm-hmm.
exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So it's for me, it's like I can see myself, doing that thing or playing this game a certain way, but I can't. When I get to it, I'm like, oh god, I gotta go. I just like doesn't really work. Doesn't work well.
Well, are you asking me uh
What
how
I'm
to
saying is like,
how to
how do you like trigger like get to that point? Is what I'm like saying that possibility if it's way distant and it's not within your reach.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Well, I mean, the answer is going to be different. Like the answer to how I do that versus how you should do or how you could do that with your equipment that you've got. Really, the question, I guess, is how do you do it with the equipment that you have, right? Not how do I do it, or are you do want to know how I do it? I don't know. I guess I
Yeah,
could.
what I mean is like how do you deal with it even though there's other ones flowing in? It's kind of like do you have to like step back and just say like this is the one thing, or do you just try everything until that one thing just kind of goes, well, this is the last one I have that I can deal with, that I can handle. So that's the one I'm gonna go with.
That does sound like a very extroverted sensing way of handling it. Just like plow through it. Um, I guess I guess if I were in your situation, or I guess if I'm in my situation, giving you my thoughts on how you can get there in your situation, um, I would probably use tools a lot to compensate for the weaknesses that you feel like you have. So if your weakness is like foresight or identifying, really, I think it's probabilities. Probably it's like there's these possible future directions you can go. Number one, can you see it clearly enough? And then number two, can you identify the probabilities of success of various different paths and pick the right one? And this becomes harder if you don't prefer a lot of introverted thinking because it's a logic problem, kind of. It's an intuition and a logic problem. You have to be able to have strong introverted intuition to see the future, and then you have to either have strong extroverted thinking to plow your way through there, or strong introverted thinking to build a logical framework that'll get you there. So either it takes a lot of creativity or a lot of, you know, um, like goal setting and like strategy. So INFJs and INTJs obviously handle that a little bit differently, but they're using a lot of introverted intuition. So seeing a lot of like future possibilities and probabilities and timelines and simulations. And then they're using their other equipment to figure out how to get there. And if you're an ISFP, well, you have a strong handle on how you feel. So that's good. That's taken care of. That means when you can figure out what the options are, you can identify which one feels right to you. But the question then becomes how can you pick the direction that is sort of the right vision, I guess. Um, because it's not just enough to know how you feel. I guess you have to be able to see what's, what the outcome's going to be or whatever. So, like for me, I don't have very good memory, so I've used tools quite a bit to augment my own memory. So I have like reminders that come up all the time for things. I create charts for myself. I create spreadsheets for myself. I will build into processes in my life things that I know will come back and nag me, you know? Like for example, I got a dog because I wasn't really exercising and I knew I needed to. And I knew if I got a dog it would force me to have to go walk the dog. So just I've done a lot of things like that to tweak my own life, to change my own life, to compensate for weaknesses that I have. So I guess if you can identify your own weaknesses clearly enough, then you might be able to do some research to find the kinds of tools that are good at helping you fill that gap, whatever that gap is.
Yeah.
Was that answer vague enough for you?
I mean, I get it.
Do you?
The
Because I don't know if I
tools.
get it. I don't know if I got what I just said. What did I just say? Do you have any idea?
You're talking about, like your dog you were using. You said you weren't getting out too well, so you needed a dog, and it's like a tool to get you to go outside.
Yeah, so I guess
Or
I had to know what I had to know what my objective was first, right? So I had to know that I was like, oh, I need to get outside. So are you struggling with like figuring out the objective? Is that part of it?
no, it's more like how to go about it.
Okay. So it's like the extroverted thinking part of it, probably.
Yeah.
It's like how do you get from point A to point B? So maybe what I mean, if you're an ISFP, then you do prefer extroverted thinking, albeit in the inferior spot, which would explain why you would have difficulty in this kind of thing. But at least you would know what you could look into to try to get better at. Pardon my yawn. It's getting late already, and I'm like almost 40. Um, um, extroverted thinking is about, yeah, it's like linear movement towards your goal. It's like using the best tools, the best um, methods and tools that people have come up with to get towards your goal. So if you prefer extroverted thinking, you'll probably want to spend more time reading books by experts in whatever it is you're trying to solve, whatever goal you're trying to meet. An extroverted thinker will do really well with reading other people's methods and following those methods. So maybe you just need a helping hand, you know what I mean? From like experts.
Yeah.
And if
That
it's
makes sense.
something if it's an expert a lot of people have kind of said is valid, then you can use that as, you can trust that. Then you can say like, well, maybe I don't know the best way to go about this, but a lot of people have had success with this person, so my odds are good, you know?
Get the expert opinion.
Yeah. What do you
And
think
then,
about that
but
idea?
yeah, but oftentimes the expert opinion sometimes isn't always reliable, and it's always like, it can go either way.
That's true. That's true. So, I mean, how do you find the right expert, I guess is the question.
Yeah, right. Maybe the right balance.
Yeah, I mean, if you're an ISFP, then it all comes down to how you feel about that expert, you know? Like, do I feel like this person is trustworthy? Do I feel like this person has a smart perspective, or they're qualified or whatever? And then if and look into them, because you can choose your own expert. You know what I mean? Like it's kind of like the quest for a mentor. Like finding a mentor is hard because you don't really exactly know what you're looking for. Until you find it, kinda. But being open to finding one is the first step, sort of, because you're like, well, okay, I acknowledge. I mean, I've been in search of mentors for a long time, and I found a few, but it is hard business, And I guess you just have to be open to finding them. And you might find them on the internet, or you might find them in a book, or you might find them on Reddit, or you might find them in your daily life. Who knows where you'll find whoever it is, but getting someone else's point of view on what you're dealing with will help you with that clarity to hone in on, so you don't have to do like, oh, I have 90 options and I have to try 89 of them before I can find the right one. Like that just does a waste of time. You know what I mean?
Cause me insanity too.
Right. Waste of time and mind. So yeah, that's my pseudo sagely advice.
Sage.
Go forth and prosper.
With your sword, you will pierce the heavens.
Exactly. Well, I don't know. I hope something in there was helpful, and you can watch the video again and see what I put on the personality bubble chart here, and
Yeah.
let me know after the fact if it was helpful or not. I guess. I don't
No,
know.
it was helpful.
Okay, that's good.
Very much.
Cool. Well, that's all I can ask for, I guess, is that hopefully I can help people. Um, well, anything else, or you want to call it a night?
I can call it now.
Okay, cool. Well, it's good hanging
I
out,
want to.
Philip.
Yep.
What'd you say?
I just said I didn't want to keep you from doing anything else.
Oh, no worries,
You
no
know,
worries. Well, it's more like I'm getting old. I'm feeling tired. It's almost my bedtime.
you don't look that old.
I know I don't look that old, but I got the rings. If you cut me in half, you'd see the rings. 40 years worth of rings.
Wow. I would have said you were like 32 or something, man.
Yeah, I've. Well, it helps that I've got this ring light on now. See, so the ring light probably helps me look younger. Anyways, to take a few years off, maybe. All right, well, it's good hanging out, Philip. Hope you have a good rest of your night. Yeah, and I guess leave a message on the video once I post it, and let me know any other thoughts that you had, or any new conclusions you came to.
Thank you.
Thanks for
Thank you very
sharing.
much.
Thanks for sharing yourself with everybody. I appreciate that.
Sure.
It's very nice of you to do.
Cool.
All right, take care.
Thanks.